Behind every great love is a love story.
Yo, dudes, the Empire's pretty chill. Maybe you could, join it or something.
Lucimus Prime here. So it's time for another movie review today, and in today's video I'm going to be reviewing what is one of my favourite films of all time, and it's my favourite film to feature a very iconic ape character, and this is by one of my favourite directors of all time, which is an absolute legend, which is Sir Peter Jackson, and this would also have to be my favourite film by him, which is outside of his Middle-earth movies, and this one of course is none other than 2005's King Kong. So now, when it comes, of course, to how this film was made, then, so this, of course, was directed, produced, and co-written by Sir Peter Jackson, and is the 9th entry in the King Kong franchise, and the second remake of the 1933 film of the same name after the 1976 remake. So, development of this film began in early 1995, 10 years prior, when Universal Pictures approached Sir Peter Jackson to direct a remake of the original film. The project stalled in early 1977 because several ape and giant monster-related films were already in production at the time, and also because Sir Peter Jackson was already directing the Lord of the Rings movie trilogy. As the first two films of that trilogy became commercially successful, Universal went back to Peter Jackson in early 2003 and expressed interest in restarting development on the project, to which Peter Jackson eventually agreed to do. Filming for King Kong took place in New Zealand from September 2004 to March 2005, and it's currently one of the most expensive films ever produced, as its budget climbed from an initial $150 million to a then record-breaking $207 million. The film premiered in New York City on December 5th, 2005, and was then theatrically released in Germany and the United States on December 14th. The film garnered positive reviews and eventually appeared in several top 10 lists for 2005. It was praised for special effects, performances, sense of spectacle, and comparison to the 1933 original, though some criticisms were raised over its 3-hour runtime. The film was a commercial success, grossing over $556.9 million, and it became the 4th highest grossing film in Universal Pictures history at that time, and the 5th highest grossing film in 2005. And it also generated $100 million in DVD sales upon its home video release in March 2006. The film also won 3 Oscars for Best Sound Editing, Best Sound Mixing, and Best Visual Effects. And there was also as well a Italian video game released with the film, which was also a commercial and critical success, and I definitely can vouch for that, because that, in my opinion, is a really awesome game, which I have on PS2. When it comes to my reaction to this film then, so I have seen this film many times in my life, and I can say very confidently that ever since I first saw this film, I've absolutely loved it. It's, for me, my favourite King Kong movie that I've seen of all time, and in my opinion, it's one of the greatest films ever made, and in my opinion, Peter Jackson's best one that he's made outside of his Lord of the Rings movies, in my opinion. Yeah, to me, this is an absolute masterpiece of a film. So what is the movie about then? So, set in 1933, it follows the story of an ambitious filmmaker who coerces his cast and hired ship crew to travel to mysterious Skull Island. There they encounter prehistoric creatures and a legendary giant gorilla known as Kong, whom they capture and take to New York City. But, of course, there's disastrous consequences when Kong, of course, breaks free from, of course, the show which is being put on. So, when it comes to what I think is great about this film then, so I definitely think this film has a really great cast of actors in this who play the main human characters. So, for example, I definitely love the casting of Naomi Watts as Anne Darrow in this film. I think she was a likeable character, in my opinion, did a very good job playing Anne in this film, and made her very likeable, I must say. In addition to that, I also loved Adrian Brody in this as Jack Driscoll. He was also, in my opinion, a great character, also likeable and well written, and it's probably my second favourite role of Adrian Brody behind his role in The Pianist. I think he was great in this as Jack. I also as well loved Jack Black as Carl Denham, who of course is the ambitious film director who wants to go to Skull Island to film something, and I think that Jack Black did a very good job playing Carl in this film. He did a very good job showing Carl's obsessiveness with making his film, and I think he played him so well in this film. Definitely, in my opinion, one of his best roles. I also as well loved Thomas Kretschmann as Captain Engelhorn as well. I think he played him really well in this film. Thomas Kretschmann's a great actor. I definitely got Engelhorn as one of his best roles I've seen him in. And There's other great castings in this. I also love, for example, Colin Hanks as Preston, and also as well Jamie Bell as Jimmy, who of course is a teenager on the crew. And I gotta say, considering of course he's British in real life, he had a very convincing American accent in this film. And as a fun fact, when playing the character, he actually stayed in character when he was not even filming anything. He remained in character with his American accent when making the film. So that's definitely, in my opinion, very good dedication to a role, absolutely. There's all good casting names, such as, for example, Evan Park as Ben Hayes as well, and also Lobo Chan as Choi, and also Kyle Chandler as the actor Bruce Baxter, who, of course, is an adventure film actor who goes on the crew. But, of course, as of course, Jack points out, he's nothing like his character he plays, is he? Of course. And it's pretty poetic how, of course, Kyle Chandler was in this film, because he later got on to appear in Monsterverse, of course, in Godzilla King of Monsters and Godzilla vs. Kong, which is definitely pretty poetic, especially because in the second film of that, Kong was in it, which was pretty awesome. And the rest of the cast was also definitely great in this as well too. And I also absolutely loved Andy Serkis in this film as Kong himself, because he played him, of course, by motion capture. And Andy Serkis, in my opinion, is the king of motion capture. Like, in my opinion, nobody can do motion capture better than Andy Serkis, in my opinion. And Kong is easily for me one of his best roles of all time. And I mean, obviously, of course, my favourite role has always been Gollum in The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, Unexpected Journey. But I still think in this film, he was absolutely fantastic as Kong. It's definitely, for me, one of his best roles. And I actually drew a role in this because he also has all played Lumpy, who, of course, is a ship's cook as well. I thought he's really good, Mrs. Lumpy. But when it comes to King Kong, though, definitely might be one of his best motion capture roles of all time. As well as that, I also, definitely absolutely love this film's visual effects, because when watching this film, I always had to constantly remind myself, especially from my rewatch of the film I did today for this review, that this film next year is going to be 20 years old, because it really does not feel about all, in my opinion. Because the CGI for this film is absolutely incredible, and I've got to give tons and tons of praise to this film's CGI department for King Kong, because his CGI, in my opinion, is absolutely phenomenal. It looks so realistic, and it holds up phenomenally for a 2005 movie. Like, it absolutely blows my mind how real he looks in this film. And I dare say it's a lot better CGI than today's CGI for films, in my opinion, too, as well. I definitely think that. And even the CGI for other creatures on Skull Island is also great as well, in my opinion, too. Like, for example, of course, for the dinosaurs and the insects that they had in the film, was definitely, in my opinion, really well done in this film. And with lots of really cool action scenes with them as well, which is definitely really cool. So I definitely really love that about it. And in addition to that as well, I also really love the musical score that was composed by James Newton Howard. I think his music for this was great, and I definitely really loved as well his main theme for the film as well. Definitely great to listen to. And also as well, I think the film also has lots of really cool scenes in this. So I definitely, of course, love the scenes where we've gone to Skull Island, and of course they of course first of all meet that tribe, of course, who kidnap Anne and take, of course, to be sacrificed to Kong. But of course, it was also in Kong and her falling in love with each other. And I also, as well, love the fight scene, of course, where of course, there's a stampede scene and also fighting the insects as well. And also, as well, Kong's fight scenes with dinosaurs, in my opinion, were brilliant. And my favourite part of the entire film is definitely the entire final act, starting from when Kong breaks through his chains in the show and he rampages through New York looking for Anne. And then, of course, he climbs up the Empire State Building, of course. And when it comes, of course, to that final scene, in my opinion, it was so well done. And when it comes to visual effects, I also think that this film did a really brilliant job capturing 1930s New York in this film. Like, they did a really brilliant job designing it, in my opinion, with, of course, the aesthetic, the costume department for the characters and the civilians in the city. And also, as well, when it comes, as well, to Empire State Building itself, I loved, of course, its inclusion of this film, of course, because it's a tradition in a King Kong film to have the Empire State Building in, of course. And it's also my first skyscraper of all time in New York and in the entire world. So seeing it in this film was definitely amazing to see. And also, when it comes to the Empire State Building, what's also really cool about it is it took 18 months for them to actually design the CGI version of it in this film. And it actually took 14 months in real life to build the skyscraper, so wow. It shows how dedicated the filmmakers were to making this film when it comes to CGI. They took so long to make it, did a really brilliant job with it. And the rest of New York was also, in my opinion, well designed too. I think because it was supposed to be in the 1930s, of course, you know, it allowed an advantage for them to be able to show the city as it was and not to read so much about much detail, because back then, of course, wasn't much skyscrapers was there really. So I think that worked really well for it, and they did a really great job with New York in this film. And there's also as well other gradings too, because one thing I will say about this film, which I'll also happily defend, is also the pacing, because this film was criticised for being 3 hours long, and this was also shown because King Kong doesn't even make his appearance until over an hour into the film. But personally, I've not got a problem with the first hour not even featuring Kong, because I think the first hour of the film was important to introduce us to the human characters and to, of course, who they are and what their story is. So I definitely think it was very important for them to do that when it comes to the characters. And it wouldn't make sense just to dive straight into Skull Island when we don't know who the characters are. We've got to introduce them first, of course. And of course, the last 2 hours of the film do make up for it, but of course, with lots of action scenes and stuff like that. And it's just so much fun to see, in my opinion, from then on, absolutely. And as well as, of course, great action scenes as well. The film also has its fair share of sad scenes, so I think the scenes where Kong is interacting with Anne are definitely, in my opinion, very wholesome. Like when we look at the sunset on Skull Island, of course, and also on the Empire State Building when we look out to it again, and Anne says it's beautiful, which it definitely is seeing the sun. I think it was also really wholesome how we got to dance on the Central Park ice rink as well in the film, which is definitely nice to see. And I've been to Central Park as well, so seeing it in this film was definitely great to see when I rewatched it. And also, when it comes to other emotional scenes, I also think this film, in my opinion, really handled Kong's death scene really well. It was really sad seeing him take one last look at Anne before falling. Like, that was, in my opinion, really heartbreaking to see. But in my opinion, they really nailed it. And of course, when he's collapsed to the ground and everyone's surrounding him, we get Carl's quote, which is definitely regarded by many as one of the greatest quotes in film history, of course, which is, "It wasn't the airplanes, it was beauty who killed the beast." So, and that, of course, was the last line of the film too as well, which makes it even more sadder. So, yeah, this film, in my opinion, is an absolute masterpiece. It's so far, for me, the best King Kong film that I've seen, and definitely, in my opinion, one of the best films I've ever seen in my life as well. With great characters, and of course, great creatures, especially King Kong himself, and with great musical score as well. And I'll also happily defend the pacing, because the first hour, in my opinion, was crucial to introduce us to human characters before we get to, of course, meet King Kong himself. Because we'd have to, of course, know who they are first before we see Kong, right? It'd be probably, hard to know who they are if, we didn't have our first hour, of course. But I definitely think that this film was great. It helped, of course, Peter Jackson rise to being one of the best directors of all time, alongside his Lord of the Rings trilogy. And he's definitely, in my opinion, one of the greatest directors of all time, thanks to his film and his Middle-earth movies, absolutely. So, when it comes, of course, to this film, then I absolutely love it. It's my favourite King Kong movie of all time. So, if I was to give the film a score out of 10, I most definitely would give it, for me, a full-blown 10 out of 10. Because, for me, it's my favourite King Kong movie, one of my favourite films of all time. An absolute masterpiece, in my opinion. With also a great game to tie into it as well, which I played when I was really young. I of course, got it on PS2 recently. And I might definitely replay it one day, because in my opinion, that game was really great and holds up really well, I must say. And of course, the cast of the film came out to voice characters for that game, which was pretty awesome. Yeah, hopefully I'll definitely play that one day. Absolutely. So guys, this is me, of course, doing my review for 2005's King Kong. My opinion, best King Kong movie that I've seen. So, drill, guys. Be sure to give this video a like. Also, be sure to let in the comments what you guys think of King Kong 2005. If you see it in the comments below. Also, be sure to join the team by pressing subscribe, who's coming in the future. And I'll see you all later.